Hello, my name is Mark and welcome to I Am Organic Gardening, and today I want to discuss with you all types of organic fertilizer and what you need to know to make it work properly in your garden or if you're using it in containers. Now we have worm castings here, we have store-bought chicken manure, and also another product that is exceptionally different than anything else because it's adding something in there, and I'll let you see that close up, and it's using the biology of the soil to help it break down. And that's why I want to talk today. All these things except our worm castings and let's say rabbit manure has to be broken down ahead of time before it works. The worm castings are already broken down and went through the digestive system of the worm, and it's ready to give nutrients directly to your plants like rabbit manure. These other two things can't do that. It needs soil biology. And just a small disclaimer notice, I bought all these products that are not being endorsed or supporting my channel, so let's get to it. What I want to talk about first is that on most of these bags here, you'll see something here, OMRI. Now that stands for Organic Material Review Institute. That's an independent lab that has certified the process of them collecting organic material, having the worms eat it. There's no problems with it. There's no contaminants in it. And just like the other things like the chicken manure, that they're eating natural products. There's no extra, let's say, medicine in there from the chickens either, but you'll see that on most bags, and it's up to you to decide whether you'd like to purchase that and just for use in your garden. Some people are very concerned about it, and others just, you can use your own opinion whether you think it's proper to use or not. You can see that we have it here also too on a different type of worm castings, and also here bottom of our chicken manure is listed also too. And then we have a product called Dr. Earth, and that's listed right here in the middle that you can see, OMRI. Start out with the chicken manure here. Now if you took this and put it directly in your container in your garden, it would not go right directly to your plants and give them the right nutrients. The reason why, it needs biology to break this down. It needs and now let me give you a chart to show you what it needs to have done. So our chicken manure here has to be dissolved first by our bacteria and fungi. Now you can have all different types of bacteria, good bacteria and different fungi inside your soil or in your container to help break this down. But it has to be broken down first by that. And then it has to be, these two things have to be eaten by the nematodes and protozoa. They actually have little inlets inside. It's like a worm. It has little inlets that the bacteria and fungi goes inside those protozoas and nematodes. They take what they need for nutrients so they can stay alive, and then when they poop out, just like our worm castings, then it's available to the plant. And I also want to show you too, if you use your own chicken manure on your farm or have somebody to deliver it to you, this is pretty much a good breakdown of what's inside your chicken manure that you see here. Nitrogen is about 3%, phosphorus is about 2%, potassium is 3%, then you have your calcium, and then you have your sulfur. If you're using chicken manure, you don't have to use eggshells in your garden or in your containers. There's enough calcium to stop any type of blossom end rot. Now we have our Dr. Earth product. Now what's very interesting about this, they're putting the biology in there. It's actually dormant right now, but once it goes in your soil or in your container and is activated by water and temperature, what I'll show you is I'll turn the bag over. What I just explained to you is halfway done in there already. It has two types of biology in the soil, or microbes there for you, but it needs more than just that. So here's what I like to explain. On the back of that bag that I bought from Dr. Earth, you see they have added in already bacteria and also fungi, mycorrhizal fungi. There's two types, there's endo and ecto. Now that's going to help break their spores in there, and what's going to do is take that plant food that's in this bag, which is like fishbone meal, feather meal, alfalfa meal, potassium sulfate, fish meal, kelp meal, rocks sulfate, and kelp flour. Now that's going to take that biology, that spores right now, that's dormant, and it's going to be activated again, like I said before, by water, that's going to regenerate that and bring that back into life again and start eating that product that's in the bag. Now again, this is very important. Just these two things here are going to get that process started, but you're going to need fully still in your garden, and there's plenty of it going around, and you don't have to worry about it. Again, you have to have your nematodes eat that bacteria or fungi that's in the bag, and you have to have your protozoa that's in your soil too that is going to eat that. Then it's plant available for your plants, and it's very important. So how do we get those two things in our soil? Believe it or not, there's spores in the air that are flying around. There's birds, there's insects, and they carry those spores on the mycorrhizal, on their, let's say, legs or their bodies or inside their bodies. So when they die in your garden or get eaten by something else like a spider, they release that nematodes and protozoa spores back in your soil, so everything gets to start working again. That's why all nature has to rely on other different parts of nature, so all things work together in nature. You just can't remove one step out of nature and say, oh, it's going to work this way. Nature is basically very complex, but very easy to use if you just leave it alone. Here's a good example. How do we get those nematodes and protozoas in our garden? The microbiology that we need to eat those other things to give our plants our nutrients. Trees. Anytime a bird comes along and sits here for a period of time, it's going to do some droppings on the ground. Inside those droppings is going to be your soil biology, especially the two things that are not listed on that bag. Now, say you don't have trees. What else can you do in your garden? Something as simple as this, a trellis. A trellis that's going to hold up your tomatoes, your peas, anything that needs a trellis in your garden is a perfect spot for a bird to come by, sit, and add something to your soil. Now, say you don't have a trellis or you don't have a need for a trellis. Just take a stick that's maybe, say, 4 or 5 feet tall and put it in the middle of your garden. It's going to attract that bird. And now a lot of people are going to say, well, gee, those birds are going to come along and eat my tomatoes and everything else too. Yes, but that's part of it. As a farmer, I have 22 acres. I have to pretty much donate at least 10 to 15% of my crop to wildlife every year. Crows, everything else too. They're beneficial, so don't panic if they come in there. I know it's frustrating because you're going to have that beautiful ripe tomato and they come along and they eat it or just peck into it for 1 second and they're on their way. But they're actually giving something back to you in your soil. I'm here sitting on my 2-foot raised bed. Now, I'll give you a close-up. I just added some seeds as a cover crop after it sank down several times. Now, what that seed is also doing, that's also bird food. The stuff that I did not get germinated in the ground. And it's not going to be eaten totally by all the birds, but a few are going to come here and deposit things after eating the seeds. So if you see birds eating your cover crops too, again, they're delivering something to your soil. But I also want to say also too is this is open to the soil below on the ground, and any worms that are in the area, they're going to come up and eat and digest the food here. They're also going to be bringing in those protozoas and nematodes into this bed and giving biology to the soil, or the microbes to that soil also too. You can see throughout here, again, I promise you a close-up of all that seed. Now, some of it's going to germinate very nicely, and you can see some of the roots are coming out already. Once they start rooting and establishing in the soil, birds don't usually like to eat them as much as just dry seeds. So let's talk about worm castings for a second now too. If you're new to gardening or you haven't noticed it before, and a lot of people won't buy worm castings because you have your N, P, and K that most people want a 10-10-10 or something significant like the chicken fertilizer. But you can see it only has a 1 for nitrogen, nothing for phosphorus or potassium. Now, what's very interesting about this, I've never ever had a problem using worm castings growing my starter plants in the house or later on outside, because again, this is all plants available nutrients to you. It's just so small amounts, it doesn't even register a 1. Now if we go over here to a different company, he's showing a better, let's say, less than 1 breakdown of what's actually inside of worm castings. Now these worm castings, like I said, have gone through the digestive system of that worm, so it has been eaten by bacteria and fungi, and has also been eaten by protozoas and nematodes that actually live inside the worm digestive system. So it's all set to go right to your plant. Now with all this small amount here, I've never had a problem, again, raising starter plants inside the house or even adding this to the garden later on through my own product or let's say a store-bought product. The last things I want to talk to you about is compost right now. Compost is basically just like your chicken manure. It is a food source product for your bacteria, your fungi, and then inside that's why compost, you're trying to select all different types of material, because you're trying to deliver inside that compost the protozoas and nematodes to actually break down the bacteria and fungi into plant available nutrients. Compost is just, let's say, inheriting all the microbiology in one spot. That's why you need all different types of things. You need your greens, your browns, but your browns can be, let's say, raspberry canes, your wood chips, your leaves. Yes, wood chips. Now what they're doing, they might not break down so quickly, but they're delivering a certain biology or microbes to your compost to help break it down, because there's all types of bacteria and there's all kinds of fungi that needs to break it down, and that's what you're doing by selecting all these different products, by acting to your compost, by delivering them to a certain area so they all can start eating and working in harmony and breaking down that material, and then have a good selection so you can all benefit from that compost in your garden. I want to thank you so very much for stopping by today, and hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I made everything clear. If you have any comments, I enjoy your comments so much. Now if you can share how you use these products, if you do use them, or understanding about the soil biology. Now with the soil biology, it's also very important too that a lot of people will say, I use these products and they don't work because something's going on. They do need temperature and they do need water. So keep that in mind, that they might work slower at a particular time of the year, like let's say early spring, because you don't have that nice warm temperature yet for that biology to grow. It needs it. Just think of this too. When you are early in the season in the springtime, look how green your grass goes, because that biology, once it starts off and starts warming up, that biology in your soil that's taking those exudates from the roots of the plants, that's feeding the soil, is actually feeding that crop of your grass. So that grass is very green, and then will, let's say, suffer a little bit more when there's lack of water during the summer months, or if there's too much heat. That biology doesn't do as well. It's actually being stressed, just like we are walking around outside. We're not comfortable. So please keep that in mind. I hope you like this video, so please like it, and if you can, please share it and share it with everybody else. Thanks. Bye.